So I started working with the Dark Goddess Tarot last year, and the cards are absolutely gorgeous in there, but I didn't flick through initially because one card stopped me in my tracks. The very first card, the Fool card. Staring back at me was this extreme and heart-stopping image, a Sheela Na Gig, and I became fascinated. When I read in the guidebook that she appeared in medieval Christian churches, it just seemed so bizarre. So I bought this book to find out more and decided to begin a quest for the Sheela Na Gigs of Britain and Ireland. And it led me in January to this beautiful church about an hour and a half away in Shropshire. Me and a best friend and my dogs, we climbed in the car and began a quest for the Sheela Na Gigs, and here is where it begins. The guidebook had told us that the Sheela Na Gigs here were inside the doorway, so we were so excited at this point. We came round the corner, just hoping that they would be easy to find. Here was the doorway. Where were they? They must be inside, and we tried it, and the door was locked. We were absolutely gutted, so we walked around the back and looked at the scenery and the landscape we found round the back of the church, and we found another doorway. This time the gate was open, so we went in looking all around the stonework. Now, either side of the door there were two stone lumps, I think I'd call them, and we wondered whether these were the two Sheela Na Gigs listed in this church that had just, say, worn away. But the one on the one side looked like a face, and we just didn't believe that that was a Sheela Na Gig. So my friend went inside the church, which was open, which we were so lucky it was open, while I continued to search outside. Yeah, that one definitely looks like a face. A worn down face, but I could see the outlines. There was nothing else in the brickwork out here. No, I didn't think this was it. And then my friend shouted, I can see them. And her face was just amazing as she pointed upwards inside the church above the doorway. And there they were, the first two Sheela Na Gigs on our quest. Two friends looking at each other over a doorway, one with a hand under their chin, smiling across at the other one in a act of display is the only way to phrase a Sheela Na Gig. Just out of place in every way, set against the backdrop of this subdued little Christian church. And that's the mystery of the Sheela Na Gigs. Now, this church listed them as fertility symbols, but they've also been called protection symbols. The jury is out onto what the Sheela Na Gigs actually are. So we walked back outside so joyous, and we could hear water. Was there water somewhere here in this beautiful, beautiful landscape? So, with Sheela Na Gigs in our mind, we walked towards this beautiful old stone wall. I think only here in Britain do you get walls like this. And sure enough, we found a stream. It seemed to be two abandoned buildings in the background. This scenery for our first discovery of Sheela Na Gigs just seemed to be built by the goddess herself. What a treasure this church was turning out to be. We were just buzzing at this point. It was just so brilliant. Even the ground was full of snowdrops as we walked around the church, exploring the exterior and following the sound of water. And on a cold winter's day, we even had blue skies beyond these gnarly old trees. And we spotted a gate in the corner that led to a path. And beyond the path, we couldn't quite believe what we were seeing, yet more amazing beauty beyond the gate. So we walked through, and here we could see the stream fully that ran around the back of the church, and in front of us an old stone bridge beckoning us forward to continue the adventure and to continue to explore. What a place we had found. We were both blown away by the beauty around us. The dogs, however, just wanted to race around the field, but that wasn't going to happen with the sheep. So as we approached these buildings, which we thought were just abandoned barns, we noticed that there seemed to be not only steps built into the bank, but a very obvious path down from these buildings towards a gate and across the river to the church. We could imagine in the centuries gone by people walking from work down via the church. It was just an amazing step back in history. And then when I looked through the windows, I couldn't believe it. This was a mill, and the wheel was still here. We were at a mill, and it felt like a portal through time. I could imagine the people working here using the local church, and all of a sudden the Sheela Na Gigs were placed very strongly in a past that seemed alive and living and breathing as I stood here looking through the windows at this incredible sight, looking through the eyes of the mill workers at their local church. History coming alive before our very eyes, and the Sheela Na Gigs calling us forward to explore more. Inside this old barn, everything was still in place inside here. It looked like a museum in the middle of a field, just open to stand in and wonder and gasp at, which we did. And the roof through the broken floorboards, so high and so untouched. It really was like stepping back in time. It felt like the type of place that you would revisit on another day to discover it was mysteriously no longer there. That's the feeling that these buildings had. And inside the mill, a roof that went up 3 stories, up and up and up the roof went. It was just incredible to see, and all of this magic overlooking the magical church containing our first 2 Sheela Na Gigs on our wonderful quest. We walked up the old steps still visible in this bank, and I wondered what feet had walked these steps before and what jobs were they doing. Were they carrying bags of flour and looking at the church, waiting for a quieter time that evening to visit? It was a really incredible place to stand and ponder the memories of lives gone by, watched over by the Sheela Na Gigs. So we made our way back across the old stone bridge along the edge of the stream towards the church again, for part of this quest involves tarot and a conversation with the Sheela Na Gigs. This is adventure tarot for me, exploring, taking my tarot out on adventures. This had turned into quite the adventure, with the addition of a mill and a stream and a medieval bridge. But back at the church, the Sheela Na Gigs were calling me. So with the dogs safely back in the car, we returned to the church again to spend more time just looking at the Sheela Na Gigs set against this very bland Christian building. It just blows my mind that there is this strangeness about this stone imagery being used in this setting. What a mystery. And I loved them so much. We were both really touched by how incredible it was to actually see them in this setting and look at this setting. So I looked around, and the broken piece of wall that links to the path up to the mill beckoned me to attempt to set up to do an adventure tarot reading, to have a conversation with the Sheela Na Gigs of our quest. And of course, I had to bring the Dark Goddess Tarot with the card that started it all. And so, with my phone balanced very precariously, I pulled first the 8 of Fire, the Dakini, she who revels in the freedom of emptiness, an initiator of change, a great energetic shift. Keep moving, welcome opportunities to move and do. This is exactly where I am, not only in my decluttering and making space, but beginning to venture back out into the world, to say yes to things and to begin quests like this one. This was a nod of approval by the Sheela Na Gig. Then I asked why I should do this, and I got Vesta, the Ace of Fire, the beginning of action. And Vesta tells us to do what you know makes you stronger, to honour your visions and to keep the fire of your inspiration burning. And finally, what will be the outcome? And I got the 10 of Earth, which is a message of letting go of the people who have hurt you in the past, and to instead seek people who are trustworthy, to connect with the earth, the ground, the landscape, and to know that within that you have roots and power. This is a quest back to myself, and I just was blown away. On the way home, we stopped to walk the dogs over the mountains of Shropshire in this beautiful forested landscape. We saw trees torn up by their roots. We saw forests so thick and dark they were like from a fairy tale. It was the most incredible day. We both loved it. The dogs adored every second. The quest for the Sheela Na Gigs has begun. Later, when I got home, late that evening, the dogs crashed out and I just sat and reflected on how amazing it is to take tarot away from your desk and to have an adventure with it. Adventure tarot, it's quite a thing to do, you know. If you give it a try, let me know. I'd love to know what adventures you end up on too.